I've got a 2007 Subaru Forester with intermittent working brake lights. So all three brake lights work about every 10th application of the brake pedal. I did some online reading, and my best guess is that it's the brake light switch. And so I've gone and picked up myself a new brake light switch. It's about 60 bucks from my parts store, and we're gonna switch it out and see what happens. Now the brake light switch is located up here above at the top of the brake pedal. Hard to get to. It's one of the least comfortable jobs you can do. You've got to bend your back halfway in the car, halfway outside of the car, and you crawl up under here. And what you'll see is the brake pedal switch is this guy here. When you make a brake application, the switch will close, sending a signal to your brake lights. When you take your foot off the brake pedal, it opens the switch, sending the signal away. So you'll start by unplugging this guy up here, and you remove that out by pressing this guy here, pulling it out, and then using a 14mm wrench, open end wrench, you're going to loosen off this bottom nut here. Leave the top one where it is. I'll explain why in a minute. Loosen this bottom one off, and then you'll be able to pull the entire switch out. Remember, don't move the top nut because you'll adjust the new one to match that one, making sure that the lights go on and off at the right time. Here we go. So this is what it looks like once it's out. As you can see, this nut here, I have tried my best to leave it in place. It's a little bit tricky. You almost need 3 or 4 hands up there. Of course, it's tight and it's uncomfortable, and it's hard to get both hands up there, but what works good is if you just put your wrench over this nut here, the nut that you're loosening, and then with your hand, if possible, just try and hold the switch itself in place. And then once you break the nut free, you should just be able to do it by hand. But like I said, it's hard to get 2 hands up there. But once you get it out, just take note of where this top nut is. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna grab your new switch and try your best to line that up. And of course, you can fine tune it once it's installed, but this distance here is critical to making sure that the brake lights turn on and off at the right time according to when you put your foot on the brake. So I've gone ahead and tried to match up the threads. You'll notice it doesn't look correct. The threads beneath the nut don't matter so much, but I've counted as close as I can. It's about 8 threads on the original one from the distance of the top of this nut to the end. So I've tried to match, counted 8 threads on the new switch. Then you put this one in the same way the other one came out, and then you'll add the top nut to the threads, and don't tighten it up quite yet because we'll want to make sure it works first of all, and then you can tighten it all up and make sure your distance and your adjustment works. It's quite difficult to get in there and see what you're doing. So what I find is if you peer through here beneath the steering column, you can kind of peek on what you're doing and then just go by feel, reaching from the underside. Trying to get the second nut on is a little challenging, and you may find you have to depress the brake pedal a little bit to help yourself out. So the new brake light switch is in, and I haven't tightened it up yet, but what you want to do is make sure that when the brake pedal has no pressure on it like it does now, that little black button is depressed, and that cuts the signal from your brake lights. And as soon as you put your foot on the brake pedal, you want that switch to open up, which sends signal to your brake lights. So you'll need someone at the back of your vehicle to tell you when your lights are going on and off, and you want to get that setting just right. Now what you're doing is you're adjusting the depth with the top nut, this top one, and then the bottom nut is to just keep it all tight. So the adjustment comes from that top nut, the one closer to the actual switch, and the one on the bottom side is tightening it up. So you want to play with that adjustment, but you should have it good. Now I've had this car for only a couple weeks, and when I bought it, it had brake lights, and it doesn't now. So I've been driving for some unknown amount of time without brake lights. So I was thankful to be able to find out about that, and that the fix was only 60 bucks, and it's easy to do. You don't have to necessarily go to the dealership. Hopefully this video works for you, and all the best.